Jimmy's Jam Box.
Keep jamming.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another exciting episode of Jimmy's Jam Box. We're here. We're back at it. We're going to go ahead and get on into it. But before we do, as always, please make sure to like, subscribe, push all the buttons, do all the things. You know, I don't know where they are, but you do, and I trust you. And with that being said, let's go ahead and get on into it. Here is today's guest.
What's up? I'm Evan. I make music under the name Van Lee, and that's it.
Hell yeah. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah.
Why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about, like where you're from, what you do, give us that like Tinder profile of your involvement with music.
Oh, shit. Okay. So I love long walks on the beach.
Nice.
And I grew up over in like Eastern Washington in the Tri-Cities. It's just like a small town, kind of like farming community. And like my whole family's from like Southern California and then moved up there. I was born actually right here in Vancouver.
Okay.
And then I moved over there when I was like 4 years old. And so I went through like all my school there and everything. And then I like going through high school and stuff, me and my friends would just like smoke weed in the car and freestyle and whatever. And then I like right when I graduated high school, both of my cousins are like involved in the music industry and stuff. Mm-hmm. And so they knew that I was into music. And so right when I graduated, my cousin hit me up and was like, hey, like I need an assistant tour manager.
There you go.
And so it was just random luck of the draw. Like both of them like went to school and like were managing bands like in high school and like in college and whatever. Mm-hmm. And so my cousin was managing the band American Authors at the time. Mm-hmm. And so as soon as I graduated, he was like, hey, like, I need an assistant tour manager. You just graduated. Like, I want to go show you the world before you go out into the world.
Oh, okay.
Because I was just so contained in the Tri-Cities in that little culture right there.
Yeah.
And so I went out with him on the Vans Warped Tour 2017.
Oh, hell yeah.
And was able to just see the whole country. We went to like, I don't know how many states, like pretty much everyone like in the like continental United States. And I would like at the time I was really just like going and getting lunch for everybody. Yep. And like going and talking to press and like bringing the band over to the press and whatever. Yeah. Like very simple, but, and I was like drum teching for them and whatever, just like setting up their set like on the little mat before it went on to stage and whatever. And so like I was doing that, and while I was out there, I didn't tell anybody that I had like at the time I like rapped. Mm-hmm. And so I didn't tell anybody that I was doing that at all because I didn't want to seem like that kid that was just like, hey, like check me out, I'm like whatever.
Yep.
And then like one night we were out on the like we were at some amphitheater in like upstate New York, and there was this guy that played for the band Save Ferris, which is like a big like ska band.
Yeah. I love Save Ferris.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Yeah, the homie who was playing trombone for them at the time. But we were all like at this amphitheater on the stage, like every night after the shows, there was like a nightly barbecue. Mm-hmm. And so like we were all over there drinking at the barbecue. And somehow we ended up on like the like main stage of the amphitheater, and there was just a piano out there. And so like the dude from Save Ferris goes out and he starts playing the keys, and I just like started freestyling over it, just like because I was kind of lit. Yeah. And like the singer of the band that I was with, Zach, afterwards he was like, man, that was like kind of sick. Like what? Like I didn't know that you were even interested in doing that. Whatever. I was like, oh yeah, like I don't know, I like to smoke weed and rap, like whatever. Yep. And so then at that point, he was like, I have a back house with a studio. Mm-hmm. I want you, after the tour, to move into my house. Oh, and shit. I want to develop you into an artist.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, oh, my gosh, like, what? Like, this is so wild. And so I was like, of course, like, let's do it. But he was like, before we can move forward with that, I need to talk to your cousins, because my cousin was managing the band.
Yep.
And so he went and asked him, and then came back to me like the next day or whatever, and was like, hey, like, so your cousin said like he doesn't think that it would work out. Like, it's going to take too long to develop you into an artist.
Okay.
Like I can't just bring you down there, no experience with it, and be like, oh, you're going to be the next whatever.
Yeah.
And so I was super bummed. I was like, man, like what? Like, this was my opportunity and you just ruined it for me, you know? And so, but while I was out there, my conception, or my like perception of like how people make music was, you pull up in like a SUV to the studio, you have like a bunch of ladies, you're like going into this like super professional studio that's all built out, you're like behind the glass rapping and whatever. And so it didn't seem like accessible to me.
Yeah.
And so that's why we all just freestyled in the car. Like, I didn't know anything beyond that, or like how to get to a point beyond that.
Yeah.
And then I'd be on the bus with the band, and they'd be like working on demos and whatever. And they literally just had their laptop with a Focusrite interface and like some like little shitty like desktop microphone, and they'd be recording stuff. And I was like, yo, like, how are you doing this? Like, what's going on here? And like, they're like, oh, this is the studio. I'm like, this isn't a studio. This is a laptop and an interface. Like, and so then afterwards, like, since the opportunity to go down to LA, like, fell through, I was like, okay, well, how can I get this equipment and start doing it on my own?
Yeah.
So like immediately after that tour, I went home, and like I had like other opportunities to where like while I was there, I met all these people that I could have went out and like been an assistant for or whatever. But my like Zach, the singer of the band, he inspired me to be like, oh, like, I think you can do this. Mm-hmm. And so I came home and I was like, I think I can do this. And so I bought a laptop. I bought a Blue Yeti, like the USB mic.
Yep.
And I had my coworker like torrent like an old version of FL Studio onto my computer.
Allegedly.
Oh yeah, allegedly. And I got on there and I couldn't figure out how to use it. FL was too big of a program for me to like start off on. Like, I was like, I don't even know what these things mean. Like, I don't know what to do. And so then I like did some research and found what's it called? Audacity.
Yep.
And like literally just the simplest little recording program that I could find. And like I got Antares and like somehow linked it into Audacity. Mm-hmm. And like I made like I used to make, when I first started putting out music, it was under the name 777. Mm-hmm. And so I spent like a year just making these songs that I wasn't out yet or anything. It was just, I was working on it. And I eventually, 777, I dropped a album of 7 songs on 7/7 and whatever. It was a whole little shtick. Like,
yeah, I see what you're going for.
And I thought it was so cool. Now I look back and I'm like, that shit's so corny. But,
I mean,
I guess it was a way to like.
It was a concept.
Yeah, it was a concept.
It was a concept. I don't think anybody can fault you for going conceptual.
Yeah. And so I like, after spending like the year on that, I was sending those songs the whole time. I was sending them to my cousins that were like involved in the shit. And, I got no responses for like the first, like pretty much that whole entire EP. I was sending them every single song and they'd be like, or just not reply, or they'd be like, oh, like, yeah, I could see maybe what you're trying to do, but blah, 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 whatever. And so instead of being like, man, I suck, like, I took that as like, okay, I need to make a better song.
Yeah.
I would take like whatever criticism they gave me and just make a better song.
Yep. And
send them that song. And then I'd get another feedback from there. And then eventually it got to the point where they'd be like, okay, like, this is cool, but it needs this, and that, whatever. Yeah. And until I finally sent a song and it was like, this is fire.
Yeah.
And
like they waited until you figured it out instead of telling you what to do.
Yeah.
Like they told you what was wrong instead of giving you the right answers so that you would develop your own sound.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and it, like, what you're saying, but also, like, in another way, it was, like, because they both work with, like, or so one of them works more in, like, the hardcore scene, was with, like, Atlantic and whatever, and he worked with the band Issues, and they're, like, do you know who that is?
The name sounds familiar.
Okay, yeah. They're, like, multi-platinum, whatever, and so one of them was kind of pulling me in that direction with all of his criticism. And then the other one worked with like Laney and shit. And so then he was pulling me more into that like pop lane.
Yep.
And so no matter what, like it was never what they wanted it to be.
Yeah.
Until I sent a song and it was like, oh, this is just Evan. Like this is what Evan's music sounds like. Not like, oh, this would fit well into the hardcore lane. This would fit well into this pop lane, whatever. Yeah. And, but then, so I made those songs, then we sent those out to like different engineers that were their homies or people that we were on tour with that knew me from there. And they were sending me back mixes that were straight, like just pop mixes. And, or they like reproduced the songs cause I was like getting YouTube beats and stuff at the time.
Yeah.
And so they like reproduced the beat, like, and remix my vocals and I'd get it back and be like, bro, like,
yeah, this isn't even the same song.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so then, there were honestly some big opportunities within that I turned down because I didn't like the sound. Yeah. Like, it was like I could have worked with XYZ producer and like done this and that, but it was like I could have done that with something that I didn't like.
Yeah. You know, that's funny. It's actually, that's something I try to like point people towards, especially for like newer people for doing stuff. Like they're always like, oh, well, I got to find like the best producer. I got to find the this, I got to find the that. You got to find somebody whose sound complements what you hear in your head.
Yeah.
Like that's the biggest secret is like, especially in the beginning, like if you care about money, find somebody who's producing beats that you can get to do for free that complements what you hear in your head. And if you can afford to pay for it, pay for the artists or the producers that you know produce the sounds that work in your head. Like we are all visionaries, but also there are plenty of both. Like there are plenty of people who are making sounds that work with what you want to do.
Yeah.
And I think that you took a really healthy approach to it by like turning down things that like would have worked conceptually, but they weren't what you wanted.
Yeah. It would have worked commercially or whatever. It was like, oh yeah, this would do well. I know, like, and the producer, like, I know how to do this. Yeah. And I could turn you into this. And it's like, I don't want to be turned into anything. I want to make music that I like and like that I want to listen to. Like, yeah. And when they were sending me the mixes back, I'd hear it and be like, what is this corny bullshit? Yeah. Like, and
yeah, who the fuck is this? Because it's not me.
Yeah. Yeah. And they'd get so, like, my cousins that, like, eventually at this time, they kind of, like, started managing me. Like, or actually that hadn't really come yet. It was more still they're just giving me advice. But they were like, you can't say that that's corny. Like, and I was like, what do you mean? Like, to me, like,
most certainly can.
Yeah, I was like, that is corny.
Yeah.
And but it was still, to some people, that's their favorite genre of music and whatever. So to me, that was corny. So it wasn't true to me, but yeah, maybe it sounded great.
Yeah.
But then, like, I kept going with that until they kind of realized, like, okay, he's not going to conform to what this is. Kept sending songs. And then I made, like, my last EP that was 777. And that one had, like, a couple of tracks that were, like, produced by my friends that I sat down with, and we kind of curated the beats and, like, whatever. And so they eventually were like, oh, yeah, like, this is what it sounds like now. Like, I'm actually willing to, like, work with you on stuff and help develop. And so I stopped putting out anything. I kind of, like, took a break from any, like, social media or whatever and just kind of went into, like, development mode of what was going to become Van Lee. Mm-hmm. Which, like, my name's Evan Lee Ford. And so, like, Van Lee is just literally the E dropped off of my name.
Ah, makes sense.
Yeah. And it also, like, in homage to, like, I love, like, all the hair metal stuff and, like, whatever. So I wanted it to have that kind of, like, rock feel, like, whatever. Yeah. and we went over like a million different names. Like one of them was like Unlucky, and then that just ended up being corny. I ended up turning that into like a clothing brand at one point, but whatever.
Okay.
But yeah, it took like a 1.5 year break, and then stacked up probably, I don't know, like 75 songs. And out of those 75 songs, we went and like made like a list of 30. And then from that list of 30, we knocked that down to like a list of 15, and then a list of 10, and then a list of 5. And then with those 5, we went in and like shot cover arts and promo videos and like whatever, did content. And then we put out Making Up for Something. That was the lead single, which I recorded that down in LA with this dude Dan Graham, who at the time he used to work with like a bunch of different like indie pop whatever, and then at the time he was like out on tour with MGK and stuff. And
that
so
makes sense.
yeah, I'm not an MGK fan. Like I think that shit's kind of corny. But
you can't say that.
Oh yeah.
Now let me ask. I don't mean to interrupt, but that's like the main song that's out on Spotify right now.
That's the one that is out. That's like the one that is out.
So I actually wanted to. We've really broken the format on this particular interview. We're already going out of order in so many ways, and it's exciting.
I'm sorry,
but no,
I just went on a little rampage.
This is great. This is great. I really want to talk about that song because I've listened to it a few times now. Like, I always try to check out everything before people come out. But there's a togetherness about that song. Like, it feels really, really well put together. Like, notably so. And I think that that's really cool. And I would love for you to like, kind of take us through the process of that song.
Okay. Well, so I got to the studio, and like how I was telling you earlier, like before we sat down for the interview, we sat and kicked it for 2 hours. Like, and that's what I did at this session. Like I had known Dan since I was a kid because my cousins were friends with him. And so he has known me since I was like 14 years old or whatever. So getting over there, we already kind of had some like rapport going, and we just sat down and kicked it. He had me put together a list of like songs that I liked that I wanted to go like in that vein. Like he was like basically like, if you were to have like a Spotify radio, who would be on your Spotify radio? So I put together this list of songs. We listened through all the beats, and he was like, okay, I see like the direction you're trying to go with. And then we started talking about like, or really I was just telling a story. I was in Portland. I went to this like after party for a NASCAR Allo show over at one of my friend's house, and it was NASCAR and like Alex Sucks and Oddly Shrugs and like the whole like Death Proof crew.
Oh, was that more recently?
It was like last year, like 2 years ago.
Yep.
And so I didn't go to the show. I just went to the after party because it was at my friend's house, and we're chilling over there. Everything's fine. Like NASCAR was literally just like sitting in the corner, like just like drinking a drink, chilling. And then I'm like sitting at the table rolling up, and then all of a sudden somebody's like standing on the coffee table, and it starts getting rowdy like when the person's on the coffee table.
Yeah.
And one of their friends comes up and like kicks the legs out of underneath the coffee table. It breaks the coffee table. They fall down on it. And then it just turns into 100% chaos.
Yep.
Like everyone's going and stomping out the table. They start grabbing plants and ripping them out of the planters. There's somebody pissing on the stairs. Like people are breaking pictures on the wall. Like it was just absolutely like what you would think of as like rock star shit.
Yeah.
Like, and to me, like that concept is like so like, I mean, it's like, yeah, cool, get rowdy, get wild. But when that's like affecting somebody else, like I think that's so fucked. Like you're at just like some girl's house and you're gonna go and destroy all of their things just because you're a rock star.
Yeah.
And so I was telling Dan that story, and he was like, that's the song. And because I said like it just felt like they were making up for something. Yeah. And he was like, that's the song. Like, and so that's kind of what it all got based off of. It was like new hairstyle and brand new shoes, set like or wait, that's a new song. But anyway, like the lyrics of it just basically talked about how you're trying to fit a persona.
Yeah.
And like you're trying to act this way so that way people perceive you in this way, whatever, because you're a rock star. You got to do this wild stuff.
Yeah.
And so that's like conceptually like where the song came from. And then we sat down, like we made the beat and Dan produced the whole thing. I just kind of like was like, oh yeah, I really like that. Or, oh, like I don't like this bass line as much. We just swap it out, whatever. And once we started writing it, I started out writing what I thought was going to be the hook. And then we went in to write the verse, and I'm just like sitting there like humming something, and he hears me like humming it, and he was like, what were you just saying? And I like kind of sang it out to him, and he was like, no, that's it. That's the hook.
Yep.
And so then what was the verse got moved, or what was the hook got moved to be the verse. We rewrote the hook, and then what was going to be the second verse ended up becoming the oh, making up for something, whatever. That was supposed to be like a bridge or something at one point. And so literally we wrote all of the parts and then kind of just mixed everything around to like what fit best. Like,
Okay.
Which is kind of crazy that you say it like fits together so well. And I feel like maybe that's the case because
it's not so much that it fits together. It's well presented. Like for somebody who only technically has one song available on Spotify, it's really well put together. Like the design of the song feels strong. The presentation of the song feels strong. Like it feels like you put effort behind it.
Yeah.
So it's interesting because usually you see one song on a Spotify and you expect you expect a demo or somebody who's like trying their best and working towards something.
Yeah.
So like the fact that like I was able to sit down and check out the one song and be like, all right, well, if it's only one, we're going to dive into it. I ended up like circling through it like 3 or 4 times. Like
Sick.
it just like it has that, like it does have that something that feels like not so much like it was like intentionally done on all these these fronts, but it feels concise, it feels constructive, and it feels well put together.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's because Van Lee, that's the first Van Lee song. Like there was 3 years previous that were all me putting in work and like doing stuff as 777 that I'm not hyped on anymore because like most of it was all like Papa Zan, this and that, whatever. It was 2017, 2018 when I was putting that stuff out. So it was that era. And I didn't want to make that type of music because like I wasn't doing that stuff anymore. And so when Van Lee came together, it very much like those songs, I wrote them all in the like waiting time of putting stuff out. So all of the songs are very much about you feel like you're waiting, like time is running out, like am I wasting time with doing all these things? Like am I trying to like present myself as like something I'm not, like whatever. So like the feeling of it all changed, but then also like there's just the time behind it. Because people always say that, like, how is that your first song? It's like, well, it's not my first song. It's just
it's not the first song you put out.
Yeah. It's like, that's the first song that's on my Spotify as Van Lee.
Yeah.
Which I don't want anybody to go look up 777 stuff. Please don't.
Yeah, definitely don't do it, y'all.
But yeah, no, that song, it came together very naturally. We recorded it in like a 8-hour session, made the beat, recorded it. He sent me back the mix like a couple weeks later. And
hell yeah.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. Well, I mean, definitely a solid track to have out there.
Thank you.
Now, like I said, we've definitely jumped around a little bit. We are no longer in the usual format. So there's like one fun question I want to ask, but I kind of want to stick with this for the moment.
Yeah.
And so before we get into the fun question, I would love to hear a little bit about your experience as far as like being a performing artist goes, because you've talked a lot about like your experience on like getting to where you are, studio time. You've done music out loud. Like you've been in front of a crowd. Tell us about either like your most favorite or your most wild time, or just kind of like what your approach was on that. Yeah.
So my very first show ever as 777, all my friends went to Eastern Washington University, and so I was always up there just like hanging out, going to parties, whatever. And I put out a song called Tonight that ended up like doing some numbers. And like, so then people at the college started hearing it because like my friends were over there and they were showing it to people. And then it ended up like, at the time I was putting out a song and like max it was getting like 2,000 plays or something like that.
Yeah.
And like over a month period or whatever. And then it went from like that song went to the first month it was like 2,000, and then the next like week it went up to like 5,000, and then it went to like 10,000, and then whatever, just like kept going up until like now to like 200 and something thousand, whatever. But the people at the college, like there was this dude that was in a frat, and he was like, "Yo, like, when are you gonna perform?" And I was like, "I don't know, like, whenever I have an opportunity to, I guess." And he was like, "I have like at my frat house, like you can perform here. We have a garage with like a little stage set up and whatever." And so then I like organized the show, and it was like headlining 777, whatever. And then I just brought like my friends onto it and stuff.
Yeah.
And I was beyond nervous. Like at that time, like I was telling you earlier, like I would just get like way too lit before the show because I was so nervous. But I mean, that show turned out amazing. Like we like absolutely packed it. It was a frat, so we promoted it as like a show / party, whatever. Yeah. And so they absolutely packed it out. People knew the lyrics in there, which is insane because I was like a brand new artist, like first show. And so that gave me like so much like fire under my ass to like do more. But then after that, I didn't have, for one, like the funds to be like renting out venues and stuff. Yeah. And my only fan base was in that little college town. Yeah. And so then I went back to the Tri-Cities, and there was this artist there that was putting on shows and stuff. But he was like, "Oh yeah, if you want to perform, it's gonna be $300. Ooh. And like, which to me, I was like, okay, like, yeah, if I want to perform, I want to go get in front of people, like, I have to pay this money, whatever. And so I did that, and the show was absolutely terrible. There was probably like 30, 20 people there in like this huge venue. And so it just felt absolutely empty. Yep. And like all of the other artists on it were like real like rappers. And then I come out singing kind of like some sad boy, like Lil Peep sound and shit. Yeah. And so everyone was just kind of like, okay, like just standing there. Nobody was feeling it. And like in the Tri-Cities, that is not the vibe. Like they love Shoreline Mafia out there. Like that's like more so the vibe. And so I honestly hated performing. Like the whole time I was 777, I hated performing for one because I was in the Tri-Cities and like the crowds there just aren't fun. Like they don't really get interactive. But then also, I don't think I was confident in my music, like to where I could go out there and like display it, because I was kind of like rapping on those songs still, which never felt comfortable to me. Like that, I just listened to rap all the time, so I thought that I needed to rap. Yeah. And so I always said like I didn't want to perform. I took like a long break from performing, and then it wasn't until like I had all these songs built up for Van Lee that I was like, okay, I'm like down to perform these. Like I actually feel, I would go in the mirror and like just like dance in front of the mirror and like hit it. Yep. And I felt confident in doing it. I was like, I could go on stage and like really present what I'm doing. And so then right after I put out the first song, my friend Selena, who like, she's from Portland, badass like R&B artist. And she was doing a show right around her birthday. It was like end of October of last year. And she was like, I want you to be on the show with me, whatever. And it was Selena, Bird Bennett, and Jackie and the Pink Smudge, and me, which all those other three artists, a lot of people know them in Portland. And then it was me, my first show, nobody knows me. And so like, that was like a little bit like nerve wracking, but then I go up there, and as soon as like the song started playing, I just like pretended I was in front of the mirror, and I just like started going. And after that show, I was like, this is my favorite thing ever. Like now that I'm comfortable with my music, I am comfortable with like how I'm presenting myself. Like it was just so fun to go up there and especially since I had been working on this stuff for like 2 years, like, and nobody had heard it except for me and my close friends. And so they would go listen to my old music, and that's what they would associate with me.
Yeah.
And so then when I was able to go out there and be like, no, this is me, like, check this shit out.
Yep.
That felt amazing. And then at that show, I met my homie Derek Zanny Wick, and like a couple other people, and they were like, hey, we're doing this house show next week. Like, your set was sick. Like, are you down to do that? I was like, yeah, I'm down, whatever. So I go and do that show. At that show, I meet somebody else, and they're like, hey, like, I have this other show going on. You killed your set. Are you down to hop on this other show?
Yep.
And that's just kind of the way it's gone since then. And like, for a while, like, I wasn't like turning down any shows. Like, I just wanted to go perform wherever. And like more recently, because I was doing shows on stuff where it was like some like Suicide Boys type stuff, and then the next one would be like straight up like real punk bands, and then like some like straight like rap, like whatever. And the dynamics were just crazy. People were always like hyped on it, which I was always nervous of, because I'm like, okay, the dude before me is like straight up rapping, and then I'm gonna come up here and like sing like a like alternative song, and so like that was like nerve-wracking until I got up there, and then people were like, oh, this is like doing air guitar out in the like crowd and whatever, and yeah, like now I feel like I am kind of leaning more doing like more curated shows that are more on like the like pop punk alternative type wave, rather than just like performing with a jumble of people. Whereas like I respect all of that music and like all my homies that make that music, but it's just like I feel like I don't always fit into that crowd, especially like some of that crowd is like very much like I was saying, like, oh, you got to get lit before the show and like whatever, and like I don't really like to do that. And so there'd be a bunch of people there that were just straight up like drugged out, and like I'd be like I was like stage managing a lot of the shows just because of my experience with touring. And so they'd be like, oh, like, are you down to help out with this, that, and whatever? So I was kind of the bad guy running around being like, yo, you can't do this in here. Like, you need to chill out, this and that, whatever. And so I was like, I don't want to do that style of things anymore, be around that crowd specifically. And, but yeah, I started out hating performing. Now it's like my favorite thing ever. Like, it's like very close under making the music. Yeah.
Hell yeah. All right. Now, like I said, in the spirit of breaking format on everything, we're going to dive into what I think is kind of one of the funnest questions that hasn't been on the show yet by the time you would have seen any episodes. So this is going to be fun.
Okay.
What is it about music that matters to you most? Like there's a million things, like there's a million like steps, there's a million processes, but what is the thing about music that is the most important to you?
The first word that comes to my head is feeling. Like, whenever I'm like, what got me like super into music right away was like listening to Travis Scott Antidote in the car at night, smoking a blunt. Like, and it was just like, it gives you this feeling of like, oh, like, I don't know. It's just wild. And so like when I first start, like when I was listening to music, that's the feeling that I was looking for, like all the time, just to put me in a mood or like whatever. And so then making music, it's also that same thing. When I'm in the studio, it's like I'll record a bunch of things and like maybe some of them will sound cool and whatever. I'll scratch every single one of them just because it didn't give me that feeling. Like when I'm in the studio and I record a chorus or whatever, and I can put my headphones on and just close my eyes and sit there and just like give myself the stink face. Like that's when like I'm like, okay, this is fire. Like that's what gives me the most like energy to do it. And then I'm like, okay, I gotta write this next line like immediately. And it's the same thing when I'm on stage, and those same lines that like got me stoked when I was in there with my headphones on, seeing other people in the crowd be like, that, like everything is like the feeling of it. Like, yeah.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Well, thanks for entertaining that question though. Like I said, it's a newer one, but I think it matters. I think like a lot of people don't get asked that question a lot. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I agree. Cause I mean, what if some of the other people said why they care about music.
You
Or
know
like,
what? You'll find out when their
Okay,
episodes come out.
okay,
We
yeah.
won't undersell it here, but I mean, I think a lot of people don't spend a lot of time thinking about the parts of music that matter to them.
Yeah.
There's so much attention on like the formula, on the approach, on the algorithms, all that.
Yeah.
But I think not a lot of people really sit down and take the time to be like, what does this mean to me? Like at a certain point, you get taught to go through the motions.
Yeah.
When the motions are not the music.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like the music is the music. And I think that your approach on it in particular is so strong. It's like, it seems concise. It seems thought out. And like you were lucky to have two people in the industry to really guide your way on it.
Yeah.
But that doesn't change the fact that you took that. You know what I mean? Like you didn't go, oh, I hear what you're saying, cousins, but also fuck you guys. Like I'm going to do, like you took what was important to them, but you didn't put it over what was important to you.
Yeah.
And I think that's a formula right there. Like that's a good way to go about it, because at the end of the day, yes, there are people who can follow the algorithm. They can follow the format. And if they don't stick true to them, but they do what works, it will work.
They get numbers. Like I feel like the way that I do it is like the least like, I guess profitable or like marketable like way. Like,
I mean, at the end of the day, the music was never designed around numbers.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like we as musicians, people who create, the early musicians didn't go, how much radio play am I getting?
Yeah.
Like they were just like, yo, this vibes. And over time, people understood.
Yeah.
Like I think there are a lot of people who don't take the time to let their music be understood.
Yeah.
And that can really go a long way. And that's why I have to circle back to it one more time. Your single, like the track that you have on Spotify right now, it's understandable. It's a well put together song. And I think that the only thing I took away after I heard it that I wanted more of was more songs.
Yeah.
And I think early on, that's like what you want. You want to leave people wanting more. And so I'm excited to see the next Van Lee songs. You know what I mean? Like I think that like comes down to is that your first song really indicated that there's a care at some level. And so whatever comes out next just gets to support that.
Yeah. Yeah, no, definitely. That's been such like big like we've taken so long to put another song out, which has driven me kind of crazy. But it's all been because we're working on a bunch of content for the next stuff and like whatever. Like I'm making, even though I'm not like big on TikTok, like my manager is big on TikTok, and so like he's sending me.
Yeah,
like,
mine too. I just don't listen to them. No, I'm kidding. Okay.
And like so he'll send me lists of TikToks and stuff like, and I'm like, that's so corny, like whatever. Yeah. So I've been finding ways to like do those in my own way and whatever, and like almost doing those ones that are the like what's working type stuff, but in a satire way.
You know who does content really well?
Who?
Like somebody who I think you might enjoy how they do it. I believe his name's Louis Fulton. And his content is really good. Like his music is really good. I got to credit where it's due, but he takes his music and he finds ways that it's like approachable and attachable. Yeah. And like he does it in almost like kind of the way you said it, like silly ways. Like there's one where he is sitting in the middle of this walkway area, like kind of off to the side, but like in this walkway area. And he's just like, you know, if you want to sit down and vibe with me, sit down and put these headphones on. He's sitting on a beanbag chair. There's a beanbag chair. There's a little coffee table. And this chick's just like, y'all vibe with you. And so she sits down, she puts the headphones on. And the second she does, he puts down his sign. He picks up a guitar. He's got his SM7B on a stand. And he just plays this swanky, sultry like sauce. And you could see her going, oh, I wasn't ready for this. And
he's actually playing it live
and he's doing it. And he always just like that's kind of his, like you can see all of his shit just living in his little fanny pack when he does it. But like he does this thing where it's like, I would rather just perform my music to people. And one of the realest moments, like I'm sorry to derail from yours.
Oh, no, not
but
at
one
all.
of the realest moments is, and it was like an earlier one for him, but he's like, sit down in this chair if you like want to feel something, or like something along those lines. Like he presented it away, and this guy, you could tell like this guy just kind of like he was an odd fella. He sits down, and Lewis plays a song, and it's like a really like invoking song, and at the end the guy was just like, "Yo, like this made me feel, and I haven't felt in a while."
Wow.
And and I mean I'm paraphrasing heavily.
Yeah.
But like he was just like, like if you want to like he created this moment for this guy, and it felt real. Like it felt real. Like it's hard to know if the internet is real or not.
Yeah, if that was a legitimate like thing, or if it was set up or whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So like when somebody actually presents something that feels so real that you have to like question it, like even to the point, like I really think that like Lewis Fulton really does his content in a way that stays true to him for his music, but it is good. It is engaging. Yeah. And it's like almost one of the few like outwardly engaging contents that I've seen in a while as far as somebody sticking to their music.
Yeah.
So if you haven't put anything out yet, I recommend checking out his stuff.
Yeah.
Because it's well done. I mean, Lewis, if you ever want to be on the show, make it happen.
Hit him up.
Yeah. But I think you should go and check it out, because it's good content that exists in a way that you watch it and you think this person exists.
Yeah.
And that
in the real world, he's not just like a TikTok dude.
Yeah. Like, and even if he is, he's a TikTok dude who actually did good music and just took the TikTok route to get the music to be there.
Yeah.
And now just lives in the good music.
That's sick.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's kind of like, for me, and like the way that my manager pitches it to me is like, you have to do those things to like get noticed. And then for me, my hope is that like, I'll get beyond that point where I need to do that. And then I can just, because the way my brain works is more like long form content, like of like a full thought out, like in-depth music video that is like portraying what the song is doing, or the like sound of the song in a visual form.
Yep.
And that's what I enjoy doing. That's like like when I'm writing up concepts, like that's what I like to make. I don't like to make like where it's like, oh, I'm going to play my song and I'm going to go like do a little dance in front of the camera. Like, and I'll do that in satire. Like I made this one where it was like, oh, my manager wants me to make TikToks. Like here goes nothing. And I like go out in there and I start like, like whatever. And like, but so yeah, like to like circle all the way back, like over the last like year since making Up for Something, we've just been working on content, making videos. Like we like the next like 5 songs are already like fully like music video, cover art, like a bunch of promo videos, whatever. We have it already. So like the Who Says is the next single that comes out next Friday, the 15th.
Oh, okay.
And then we're doing every month from there out. And so now like you're saying, like there was that one song and like I was going and performing and people would hear that one song. And then, but I was performing all of my other stuff as well.
And so they were wondering where the rest of it was.
Like, where's the rest of the stuff? Like, they'd have a video on their phone of me performing Keep On Dreaming or whatever. Yep. And then they'd be like, hey, like, where can I find this song? And I'd be like...
And you were like, you can't.
Yeah, like, oh, like, it's not out yet. Like, it'll be out eventually, whatever.
And it was funny because that's the only thing... I wasn't going to point this out directly in it, but that's the only thing I, like, really try to, like, preach to people when it comes to stuff is that when you put out something cool enough that people want it, you have to have other stuff for them to want when they get there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's interesting that you took the approach of like the single that has been the single for so long as far as what's presented presently, but still still playing things and promoting things and doing stuff. It's cool that you took the time to play music in front of people first and see that it works.
Yeah. Yeah, no, definitely. I definitely realized off of performing the songs which ones were going to be the lead singles and whatnot.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Man, that's not something that's done.
Yeah.
Like, definitely not regularly. And I think that that's something really people could take away something from, is that if you take the time to workshop your music in front of people, like comedians do it a lot. Like, it's such a weird correlation with comedians and musicians. But like, you have to try out music in front of people. You have to see what works. And like, when you put out a collection of work, it should be what works.
Yeah.
Like, you shouldn't write your music for other people, but you should write your music for you and be performing it often enough that you can see what connects.
Yeah.
And then make that your like there are songs that artists have done that they never put out as a like finished work.
Yeah.
It's only ever just performed. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I think if you don't put out music that is palpable, like it's not to say you have to write completely for everybody, but if you know music works for everybody, especially because you performed it first and then you put it out, it's a recipe for success.
Yeah.
Like I don't think there's anything wrong with it.
Yeah, and like those people that have the videos of those songs, when that song comes out, they're gonna be so stoked.
Yep.
Like, oh yeah, this is the video of the song that I've been waiting on.
Yeah.
And like whatever. And it's like, which is cool and sucks at the same time because I just want people to hear it. Like I wish there's been so many times where I've thought about just like taking all of the songs and putting them onto like a SoundCloud playlist and being like,
and just not telling anybody and letting them
except for when
see.
or if they hit me up, be like, oh yeah, it's on SoundCloud, you can go to it. But like my manager wouldn't let me do that.
Yeah. I mean, and it's understandable why.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think that if you have a plan, like that's really the big part. I think a lot of people don't have a plan when they do certain things. You clearly have a design and plan. You have something in mind, or at least your team of people has something in mind. And so sticking to it makes sense at this point.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. It's the one thing that has been hard with only having the one song out. Like people think that that's my only song. Like they're like, oh, this is
technically.
I mean, technically it is. Yeah.
It is, but
they don't know that I have 30 that are just like waiting to go out, that are just in line waiting to go. And so, and it's like, I'm the only one that's hearing these things. I'm the only one that knows like how dope that shit is.
Yeah.
Like in my opinion, like, so like I'd be like, and so then when I'm like thinking about like my own music and whatever, people don't even know what it sounds like. They just know that one song.
Yeah.
And I've had promoters be like, oh yeah, like I seen you at a show, then I went to your Spotify, only had one song, so then I didn't book you because I thought you only had one song.
Yeah.
Like, and I didn't know if you would be able to fill a whole set or whatever.
Yep.
And it's like, no, bro, like I have 10 million songs that I can fill a set with, but it's just that's the one that's out.
Yeah.
Which I am just so excited for like the next ones to come out, like, because then it'll finally be like, yes, there is more music.
Yeah, this is the continuation. Like this is what everybody's been anticipating.
Yeah.
And I mean, the truth is that like that's got to be a bit of a scary moment.
Yeah,
like,
definitely.
Once you present to people what's next, then that's it. Like the anticipation's gone. Like they now have seen what's next. Even if there's still many more things after that, once that first thing comes out after, like you've now created almost a new you. And that's kind of like that, like not in like a scary way, but that's like a really powerful stance. You know what I mean? And you've taken such thoughtful measures into how you're going to do it. So it's like me as the listener, I'm already confident that what comes out next is going to be good because you have taken this many steps.
Yeah.
But, most people don't get to know that. And I mean, I guess, now once they watch it, they do. But like most people don't get to know that. So it's really like, that's an interesting insight to like the realm of like artists who are in the thick of it. And so it's cool that you get to break that down in the way that you get to break that down because not everybody gets to share that step in the process. Yeah,
no, definitely. Also like waiting to put these songs out, like, I've just been, I completely lost my train of thought.
No, you're totally fine. Well, you know what? We're going to go ahead. I think this is a great spot for it. We're going to go ahead and start wrapping it up.
Okay.
But we're going to go ahead and talk about what's coming up next. So like give us kind of a timeline for what is happening for Van Lee, like what's coming out next and how can people be ready for it?
Can I have this on screen?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
A little late now. You're already holding it.
Sponsored by Truly.
This episode is definitely not sponsored by Truly, but Truly, if you would like to sponsor us.
Definitely.
But yeah, but what's coming up next?
So like I already said, Who Says coming out on September 15th.
Which will actually be after this episode, so get ready, y'all.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, so who says like this next week I'm going to start like the rollout for that. We have like a bunch of different promo videos that we've shot and stuff. So just building that out. And then after that we have Delusional and then Keep on Dreaming but like many more just every month after that.
Yeah.
Just lots more content, lots more like just like funny TikToks, like how I was saying, just like more like in a satire way. It'll be like the things that you see on TikTok that are trending and whatever, but me kind of making fun of that.
Yep.
And then more like long form, like cool videos. My buddy Carver Mitchell, he's a dope ass videographer. He's from Arkansas but lives in Portland now, and he shot all of my stuff. He shot all the stuff for Who Says or for Making Up for Something. And like, cause with Making Up for Something, we did like a whole rollout of like these flyers and whatnot. And so with these, like we have all the cover arts, promo videos, and we just shot them all DIY, like no budget for anything. Like we just kind of like came up with a concept. I'd kind of bring an idea or he'd bring an idea and we'd sit down and just spitball and come up with where we were going to do it, what I was going to be wearing, what the concept was, whatever. And so, yeah, just more videos, more content, more music, more shows, more like curated shows. I really want to start throwing like my own shows in the city, and kind of bringing together artists that I really enjoy their music and their stage presence and them as people, like including like Walker and
shout out Walker.
Yeah, and like Kill Maddie. And,
Yo, shout out Kill Maddie.
Yeah, and a few more people, and then like Keddies is like kind of outside of my realm, but like I absolutely love their music.
Oh yeah, big fan as well.
Yeah, and
Yo,
so
shout
like
out Keddies Resort.
yeah, absolutely insane. But yeah, so like I really want to put together some more curated stuff that's like for the scene, like just like $5 tickets, whatever. Like I don't care about making money from it or whatever. I want to have like a dope group of people that want to come listen to cool music and cool artists that want to perform in front of cool people. Like and yeah, I feel like that's kind of the point. Like when I came to Portland, that was kind of my end goal. Like or not end goal, but end goal for in Portland.
Yeah.
I wanted to come here, meet people, do my thing, start performing, and then eventually build a group of people around me that I could go do these shows with and whatever, which I feel like part of the thing with putting out all like the big gap in the middle and doing all those shows, like I was saying earlier, I gained so much more like traction without posting on Instagram just by doing these shows. And like I feel like I needed to kind of build that core around me before putting out all this new stuff. Because when Making Up for Something came out, there was really nobody waiting on it. Like maybe some people that had been around since the beginning. Yeah. But there was no like big anticipation other than the rollout and people being like, oh, all this content's interesting. And so now I feel like I've kind of built a little group of people around me that are excited for what's next, and I just want them to hear it. That's like the biggest thing. Like, I don't want to just listen to it in my own little closet studio anymore.
Yeah. Well, actually, great segue then. Why don't you tell people, look at the camera for the next one and tell people how they can find you, give us the ads and plugs for you and things like that.
Van Lee on Spotify and Apple Music and whatever. If you can't find it, look up Making Up for Something with Van Lee and it'll pop up. But then on Instagram, it's at Van and then like the little like shy smiley face, like the like _. Lee. And yeah, that's pretty much it. And then same thing on TikTok and stuff. It's also that same at Van _. Lee. Regular Van Lee was taken. I messaged all the people, but there was like some chick in Asia and she wouldn't give it to me. But
Fair. And then any other plugs, any other shout outs, anybody else you want to put on while you're on here?
Ooh. I mean, a lot of the people that I already talked about, like Walker, cool individual, and like who TF is Walker consists of like 4 dope dudes. Yeah. It's Sam.
Shout out Sam.
Walker.
Shout out Walker.
Zach,
Shout out to Zach.
and homie's name. It's more of a confusing name. I'm so sorry, bro. Like you're so cool. But the bass player, like homie's super cool. But yeah, and then just my cousins for spending all the time and like helping develop me like that. Yeah, I wouldn't be where I was if it weren't for them bringing me on tour and telling me my music was ass until it was good.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. All right. Well, now we've got one last question to go. But before we do that, I'm going to steal the camera for just a second.
Sweet.
As always, y'all, please make sure to like, subscribe, hit all the buttons, do all the things. You know, I don't know where they are, but you do, and I trust you. And with that being said, the final question. What is your guilty pleasure song?
Guilty pleasure song?
Yep.
I can sing "Someone Like You" by Adele, like word for word.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
In middle school,
You know what? Rolling in the Deep just fucking gets me going. Every time I'm just like vibing by myself, I'm rolling in the deep.
Oh yeah.
Like yeah.
Yeah. Like when I first heard Adele, I was like in Vegas visiting family, and we're like driving around Vegas, and it was playing, and I'm like in the back seat of my like aunt's car, and I was just like rolling in the deep.
Yep. Yeah. There's no way around it. That shit just gets into you.
And like "Someone Like You," I wrestled in middle school. My little skinny ass, like I was literally in the featherweight division.
I was wrestling in middle school as well. Yep.
I literally weighed like 74 pounds or something.
Yep.
And I would get home from wrestling and like get into like a bath, and like I'd like be like laying in the bath in there singing "Someone Like You."
Yep.
Yeah. So my dad would be like, "What the fuck are you doing?" Like, yeah. Sorry, Dad.
I love that. No, that's great. Hell yeah. All right. Well, we're going to officially get up and out of here. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank
today.
you, man.
I really appreciate it.
Hell
yeah. Hell
yeah. It was a good time.
Hell yeah. All right, y'all. We're going to get up and out of here. This has been another exciting episode of Jimmy's Jam Box. I'm Jimmy.
I'm Evan or Van Lee, and this is Even Peso.
And we're signing off. Later, y'all.
This is not a podcast. This is a show.
Keep jamming.